The Brood is honestly kind of a slow burn, at first focusing on the struggles of being a single father. But once it gets to the big finale, it's well worth it. And I guarantee you, you won't be the same after watching. It opens up with Dr. Hal Raglan giving us a demonstration of a new form of therapy called psychoplasmics, which seems to involve yelling at the patient until they get sores all over their body.
Speak up, girl! Hit you!
I'm not really sure how that helps, but okay. It looks to be a success because everyone seems to think the doctor's a genius.
The man is a genius.
All but one person, Frank Carvath. Frank's wife, Nola, is under the care of Dr. Raglan, and she's a certified wacko.
Show me your anger, Nola. Show it to me.
While giving his daughter, Candace, a bath one night, Frank sees bites and marks all over her and assumes it's his wife beating her. You see, even though she's in the nut house, she still gets weekend custody of her daughter. After seeing these marks, Frank vows to take that away, so she'll never see Candy again. Something Dr. Raglan knows would break Nora.
Either way, no more weekends with Mummy. The kid stays with me.
To take Candace away from her at this stage could send Nola over into the deep end.
Frank consults a lawyer to see what he can do, but the law just isn't on his side. Typically, they favor with the mother in these cases. The only thing he can do is try to fight the doctor's unconventional therapy, the psychoplasmics. So he chooses to figure out just what it is and use it against Raglan. Frank picks up his daughter from school, then heads over to his in-laws to drop Candy off. But you know what? The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Remember that. Old Juliana seems to be a few fries short of a Happy Meal herself. Nonetheless, she does seem fit to watch Candace for a couple hours. However, she hears something in the kitchen, and boy oh boy, whatever it is making a giant mess. We don't get to see it too closely, but it seems like a little kid is hiding out, waiting for the attack. Poor Candace comes in to check on her dear old grandma, only to find her dead. Now, normally this would scar a little girl, and I believe it does, because little Candy isn't the same after seeing this. Frank learns about the murder and goes to pick up his daughter at the police station. It turns out an officer heard the commotion while patrolling, came in and found Juliana dead. Candy was tucked in the bed upstairs, and she was difficult to wake up, a sign that she was struggling to deal with this trauma. Also, to bring a little levity to the situation here, you notice how everything is bright yellow in the 70s? We see some of Raglan's sessions with Nola and slowly learn that she didn't have the greatest childhood. Her mother beat her, and her father didn't really do anything about it, eventually divorcing her and leaving Nola in her abusive mother's custody.
You didn't.
Speaking of her father, he comes back to town for his ex-wife's funeral. Frank meets Barton at the airport, and the old man can sympathize with Frank, knowing what he's going through, because he went through it with Juliana. But as we'll see, Frank's got it much worse. While Candy's at school, Frank takes the opportunity to talk to Jan Hartog, one of Raglan's old patients. Jan is in the process of suing the doc because he now has cancer. He can't prove that psychoplasmics gave him throat cancer in his 30s, but that doesn't really matter. Even if they lose, they win. People will associate psychoplasmics with cancer, and that would give it a bad name. We see Jan's neck, and yeah, it's pretty messed up. I've never seen cancer do that before.
That's Raglan. That's psychoplasmics.
Frank picks up Candy from
Sorry I'm late.
school, this time meeting with the teacher, who wants to get into his pants. She comes over for dinner, which isn't a bad thing. Candace could use a mother figure in her life. But before things can get hot and heavy, Frank gets a call from Barton. He's drunk and about to break out his daughter from Raglan's care. Obviously, even Frank knows that that's a bad idea, so he asks Ruth to watch Candy while he goes and straightens this all out. But he won't get a chance, because Barton is savagely murdered. But this time, they have a suspect. The police do an autopsy and discover something interesting about this thing. It has an iris, but no retina, meaning it sees only in black and white. It has a hair lip and a thick tongue, so it can't speak. And probably most interesting, a fleshy sack of skin between the shoulder blades. The skin holds all the creature's nutrients, kind of like a camel. Once the sack is empty, the monster dies. Interesting. Weird, but interesting. Meanwhile, Nola somehow finds a way to call Frank's house. Obviously, he's not there and Ruth answers, which doesn't help things. Nola thinking Ruth is trying to break up their family.
You bitch! You're killing my family!
This is enough for Ruth to decide that Frank's life is a bit too complicated for her right now, the smartest move in any film history, and she decides to go their separate ways. However, the damage is done, because the next day at school, it looks like Ruth's got a couple extra students. They kill her with a wooden hammer. Now, I've been hit with those. Sure, they hurt, but you're not going to kill someone with a wooden toy hammer. Come on. Well, all the students watch in horror as only this kid, who looks like Curtis from Wife Swap, goes to get help.
She's acting like she's the queen and we're the sorry people.
Frank finds her dead and Candy missing. He doesn't have any leads on where Candace went either, although it's pretty obvious. But one of Raglan's patients finds him and tells him that all of the others have been evicted, except Nola. She got to stay because of her children she keeps in the work shed. The plot thickens. Frank rushes over to the compound and is just about to go in when the doc comes out, and they actually manage to work together. Once Hal learns that Candy's locked up in there, he knows the only way to get her out is to keep Nola calm. These things attack when she gets upset, so Frank's job is to go in and talk to her, try to convince her that they can be a family again. All while Raglan goes in for Candy.
Ooh, a piece of candy.
Frank talks to Nola, who's surprised to see him.
Frank?
She tells him that her life lately has been so strange, and boy is that an understatement. Meanwhile, we see the doctor in the attic with a bunch of broods, but luckily he finds Candy asleep. Downstairs, Nola proves to Frank that she is indeed special. Are you sitting down? Okay, let's move on. Yes, these broods are Nola's babies, in a way. They're more of a manifestation. You see, every time she gets angry, that rage builds up inside of her, until it's on the outside, in the form of boils, until they turn into broods. Monsters that will do her bidding, even if she doesn't command them to. While she's happy, they're calm. But get her upset, and things start to get ugly. Which is bad news for Raglan, because Nola is starting to see that Frank isn't turned on by seeing this, upsetting her, making the broods attack upstairs. Meanwhile, she rips up the sack with her teeth, effectively giving birth, and licks the thing clean. This is disgusting. I can't watch this anymore. Hal tries to defend himself, but there's just too many of them, and they overpower the doctor, killing him. Nola knows what Frank is up to, that he came here to take Candy away from her, and she'd rather kill the girl than let that happen. So now she's in trouble too. Frank can't have this, so he strangles his wife, killing her and the broods to save his daughter. And Candy? Well, she'll be okay after many, many years of therapy. From our sponsor, BetterHelp. I'm just kidding, but she is gonna be pretty messed up. And remember what I said about the apple not falling far from the tree, because Candy's already starting to get boils on her skin, a sign that she'll be just like her mother. You know what? I don't really say this that often, but I think it's time for a part 2. The Brood 2, Candy's Revenge. She'd probably be about the right age now where she'd be a mother, or heck, even a grandmother. Maybe it could skip a generation. I don't really know what kind of weird twist they could put on it after seeing Nola rip open a brood sack with her teeth, but I'd watch it. Maybe have one of the broods survive, and now it's a full-grown adult. That'd be kind of cool. Have him find a William Shatner mask from a Halloween store and steal some overalls from a guy. Oh, hey, wait a minute. The whole movie's pretty messed up, because minus the end and the actual broods themselves, this is something that could happen, and it shows the struggles of a single parent. It might feel like that because David Cronenberg, the writer and director of the movie, wrote The Brood after his divorce with his wife, even saying that Nola possessed some of the characteristics of his ex-wife. What characteristics? The fact that she liked to lick babies? The Broods are a pretty interesting monster. Forget that they're a manifestation of Nola's hate, and just look at them. What's up with the sacks on their back that hold the nutrition? What a weird concept. The Brood is horror done right. Disturbing, right on the edge of being a B-movie, but written well enough that they pull it off. I give it 3.5 wooden hammers out of 4.